What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and you have no idea how hard it was to make this video. I was making it like 10 different times, and then out of nowhere I started launching into coughing fits. It was horrible. But hopefully this will be the actual one to make it true. So, you're going to see a lot of different versions and variations on this video today. You'll probably also see a lot of the news and media articles talking about it, but I know a lot of the media places and probably some of the other videos you're going to see are really only going to focus on like sales numbers and console sales numbers basically, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is basically what this alludes to. So first off, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. All the numbers and all the stuff that's going to be talked about in this video, it was all released based on UK sales data. Obviously, UK is not indicative of the entire world. Albeit myself, I don't live in the UK. I live very close. I live in Ireland. But at the same time, it's very easy for me to relate to, and it's pretty much the only place to put the numbers out. So I can still use it as a base. So that's all that. Also, one last thing is that all the numbers and all reflected in this are based on physical console sales only. They're not based on digital sales on console, or they're not based on physical or digital PC sales. So that's all that. Now, onto the actual part of it, and then I'll get on to the bit I want to talk about. So MGS5, we all know, launched last week. Kojima's long-awaited fifth numbered installment, I should say, of the Metal Gear Solid series, blah blah blah. It's the largest selling it's the largest selling numbered game in the entire Metal Gear Solid series. Now, I don't want to talk about all that kind of stuff. There'll be places and articles and videos and all that you see with exact numbers and, you know, what it did and didn't outsell and where it placed. I'm not talking about that. What I do want to use as my factual part, or my opinion part, and then I'll get onto it, is that of all the physical console copies sold across all 4 platforms, across both generations, in the UK, 72% of those copies were sold on PS4. 22% of those copies were sold on Xbox One. And here's the bit that really sparked my interest. 3% of them were sold on PS3 and 2% of them were sold on Xbox 360. So, like I said at the start of the video, this is obviously not indicative of the entire world, but I'm sure should the US or wherever point at release sales numbers, it will still be, I wouldn't say very similar, but it would be relatively close. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if other places had like 10% between the two, but either way. So we have all the numbers there. Once again, 72% PS4, 22% Xbox One, 3% PS3, 2% Xbox 360. So obviously we know why Konami or Kojima or both decided to make a version for the 7th generation consoles. There's between the Xbox 360 and the PS3, there's over 100 million of those consoles worldwide. That's obviously not including PS4s and Xbox Ones. So that's a potential of over 100 million extra sales. Now, I realize, you know, in reality and in practice, it doesn't work that way. But at the same time, we know how companies work, and we know how they all just think of numbers separately and more potential sales and all. So for argument's sake, there's over 100 million of those consoles in homes around the world, not just the UK, but around the world. So it's understandable why they did it. And at the same time, maybe they didn't want to let people miss out on a game until maybe like 2 years from now, whenever they do upgrade to whatever current generation console they're going to upgrade to. But the bit that I'm really curious and interested about is the fact that they sold so poorly. Now, I wasn't expecting the 7th generation versions to sell very well. I was expecting them to sell a little bit better than they are now. Maybe at 10% combined. I was kind of expecting maybe up to 15. But at 5% between the two, that really goes to show that a lot of people have upgraded to PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. Now, yes, We all know the PlayStation 4 is selling extremely well. The Xbox One is still selling pretty well as well. It's just not selling as good as the PS4. But I'm not talking about that. I'm not getting into a fanboy war about what's selling better and what's not. The fact is, people are upgrading to a current generation console, and a significant amount of people have upgraded to a current generation console, and these sales numbers reflect that. So, what I think is Konami, if they ever make console games again, who knows what the way they're going, but Konami and other developers and other publishers, I think this is very telling news, as well as, say, other companies and developers, with their own games that are selling pretty poorly on previous gen versus current gen. I think this is going to be not so much a wake up, but I think this combined with all the other devs is just going to be the point where they say, fuck the last generation. They're 10 years old. We obviously can't get anything going on them. Like, I remember I've seen comparisons all over the place. PS4 and Xbox One versions of MGS compared to the previous generations versions of it. I mean, the PS4 version runs at 1080p 60 FPS. Granted, I hear it has a lot of frame rate issues, but it's still 1080p 60 FPS for the most part, possibly. Xbox One version 900p 60 FPS, considerably more stable, I hear. But when you compare them to, from what I understand on the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions, is these games are running at like 720p, and not even a proper 720p, it's like a modified 720p. It's got a lower horizontal resolution by 720. It's like 990 or 960 or something like that by 720. So they're obviously running even lower, and they're hitting like 20 FPS during during a fairly quiet scene. No pun intended with quiet there, by the way. But I'm just saying in general. And that's with all, not only the resolution and the frame rate lowered, but that's with all the graphics settings and all the extra, processing and all the extra effects and everything just toned all the way down. 10 years old, let these consoles go. I mean, we've all had a good run with them. Unfortunately, sorry, I'm laughing here at the same time. But unfortunately, if you did just buy an Xbox 360 or PS3 like within the last year or two, you kind of, you have like a 10-year backlog to choose from, but at the same time, don't hinder progress. And I think something like this, as well as, like I said, coupled with all other companies and their own individual games and products, I think it's going to be a very big wake-up call. And I think we're already seeing companies and devs shy away from making previous gen ports. Look at Mortal Kombat X recently that I talked about too. I mean, that was released on Xbox One, PS4, PC, and the 7th generation versions were delayed a couple of times and then eventually cancelled because they couldn't get it working, at least not up to spec. And it's unfortunate for the people who were planning on playing on the old one, but let's look at it this way. I mean, they didn't keep making, say, Nintendo games, NES games. They didn't keep making those after the Super Nintendo was already around for a couple of years, or they didn't. It's progress, unfortunately, as harsh as that might sound. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I personally would like to see developers abandon the old consoles. Like I said, there's thousands of games to choose from. There's 10 years of games with thousands of different titles to choose from between both. So let's just let them be. I mean, all these developers, and we don't want them, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't want them gimping our new games over the course of the next 5-6 years. Hopefully this console generation doesn't last another 6 years. It's already been going on for 2. I don't want to see 6 more. But yeah, it's just I don't want to be playing games 4 years from now that have taken the old consoles into consideration, because there's a lot of complaints about the graphics and the hardware in the current consoles, and if they have to keep factoring in all the old stuff as well, it's just going to be an even bigger clusterfuck, and it's going to be even less worthwhile in the long run. So let me know in the comments section below what you think about the fact that the sales numbers in this instance are so low for the 7th generation of consoles, and what your opinion in general is about games that have to factor in previous gen, like scalability and all, at the same time as current gen. So let me know all that in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter, details in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.